All right, anybody have anything they want to share before I get started? Let's see if I can see here. All right, let me just check in one more time. You guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, as I was just doing my own studying this morning and been listening to different audios, every day, I listen to something and motivate me, inspire me, teach me. And then I can kind of evaluate where I'm at based on what I'm learning, and am I applying what I just heard, and what level am I playing at. um, I really like the healthy mind and body, because at the end of each day, it asks you at the end of each exercise, what did you do today or yesterday. Those two last questions that I'd ask every time. It just gives us an opportunity to evaluate ourselves, not in a non-judgmental way, but in holding myself accountable, to what level of excellence am I playing at. Or, it's not like every day I'm going for the Super Bowl, that intensity. Like I'm in the middle of the Super Bowl and, it's fourth quarter and, could be up by 2 or down by 2, whatever. Um, it's not that kind of like intensity all the time. I don't think anybody could live their life and keep sanity doing that. However, there is a sense of evaluation and just evaluating. And, even on a daily casual basis, am I still guarding my thoughts? Am I still, being true to the principles that I know? I mean, people do this all the time, and it's maybe sometimes we beat ourselves up, especially like on a diet. We know we shouldn't be eating this, that, or, we try and stay away from certain high calorie, high sugary, foods. But then we give in to them, and then we beat ourselves up, for doing that. I just try to maintain that, if I'm going to make a decision, I'm going to make it consciously, and, I'll evaluate some certain things. And okay, well, if I eat this thing, then I know I got to maybe, not eat as much of something that, be even more disciplined tomorrow, or maybe do a little bit of extra exercise. Like I'm calculating the cost based on what, my choices are. And that way I'm in control of the consequences and not play the victim or, you know, complain or get myself into a funk where I'm beating myself up. I won't allow myself to go there, because one thing that I absolutely know is the way that I'm feeling and the things that I think about are going to create what's up ahead, And so um, I'm going to, on one level, I don't beat myself up. I'm not like playing like this is the Super Bowl in the last 5 minutes of the game, and I'm in and everything counts on me right now, as the quarterback. But when it comes to my thoughts, I don't give much wiggle room there. Like I'm going to be a conscious creator and never fall into the victim mode. And victim mode could look like complaining, worrying, beating myself up, looking at the past in a way that brings me down. So, as I'm going throughout the day, if I make a decision to do something that isn't quite in harmony at the highest level, let's say trying to be fit or trying to be healthy or build my business, I'm not going to beat myself up. I will make a conscious decision way out on a scale, something that may not be completely in harmony, but I'm just going to weigh it out and say, will it really matter a week from now if I don't return this phone call right now, or if I don't follow up with this person? But do I do that all the time, right? So I'm just trying to make the case for, we should be enjoying the journey. We should be holding ourselves accountable, but we shouldn't be stressed out about it. We shouldn't be like burning ourselves out. There's a certain level that I won't drop below, that I'm not going to drop below. And that keeps me in the safe zone. That keeps me going in the direction that I want to go in. But, maybe I'm right on the borderline of that threshold, but I'm still moving forward, as opposed to, being in the last few minutes of the Super Bowl or an NBA, championship game. But I like to play in that area rather than fall below the threshold where now my life is unwinding. Now it's going backwards. It's going sideways on me. There's a lot of negative things that are happening. There's a lot of circumstances that feel like they're out of my control. And, I won't fall into that threshold because of the work that I've done in developing, my mindset and understanding the principles. So hopefully that makes sense. When you can find that area where you're above the threshold and you can just play in that area. Like when we went on our trip to Africa, I was not thinking, oh my gosh, I have to get back. There wasn't one moment where I allowed myself, because I consciously made the decision, weighed things out before I went. Right? Does that make sense? And I think as we get into a place where we habitually do that and we can weigh out the consequences of our decisions before. A lot of times we'll justify. I'm not talking about justifying. That puts you down below the threshold where you're like, it's bedtime. I probably shouldn't have the ice cream, but you know what? I'm not getting results anyway, so I'm going to have the ice cream, right? That would be a justification. That's not really a conscious creator who's taking control of their life and designing their life, by design. They're actually allowing that moment of quote unquote temptation, or whatever word you want to put there, weakness or giving up. I'm not talking about, that's not how I stay above the line or keep from falling below it. Self-justification and rationalization is not a part of my mindset anymore because I've worked so diligently at it. And I know that it doesn't serve me. Are there moments, am I 100% perfect at that? No, there's probably some times where I might justify myself, but they're very minimal in my life. I'm way better than I used to be at that. And it's made all the difference. That would be Vince Lombardi's quote, a person's commitment to personal excellence determines the quality of their life. So I don't fall into victimization. I don't fall into rut dweller. But I do have a lot of wiggle room from being really going for it. And I might really go for it for 2 weeks in a row without letting off the gas. Maybe it's 2 months in a row because I really love what I'm doing. But even at that level, if you just keep doing that, you're going to burn out. So even though you enjoy what you do, you got to find balance. But my wiggle room is above the threshold. So maybe that might be a good thing to write out and start to really ponder on that. So you have this threshold area right here. Well, I guess the threshold would be here for non-serving behavior. So anything below that line right there is going to cause negative results, whether it's your health, your business, relationships, right? How you what you do with your time during the day. So that's the threshold right there. You don't want to go below that. So where you want to be working is in this area here, right? And you can go as far down to there, but you're not going to go below that. And you can really go for everything that you know to do and really stay focused and get a lot done. And it is like right here would be last 2 minutes. Let's say NBA championship. Because, I mean, a lot can happen. I mean, you're down 2 points. You could be up 4 points in like less than a minute, right? So like in 30 seconds. So there's a lot that it's really intense right there. And then right here, it's not cruise control, but it's minimal effort. Okay, so I want to be somewhere in this area. There's all kinds of levels that we can be operating here. But as long as I'm in that area, now the compound effect starts taking place because I'm always at least doing something that's positive. something that has the right attitude, something that has the right actions, right? So this is where I operate now. A lot of times I like operating up here. That's just my personality, right? And I enjoy it. However, if I do it for too long right up in this area, then I can have burnout. And I'll be like, man, I just want to be home right now, instead of traveling. So again, hopefully that makes some sense right there, and not falling below that threshold. I think most people dip up. Most people's lives, their results represent them going up to this area, maybe for a half a day, but then spending the rest of the week down here, right? And just getting by, and maybe watching a lot of TV, having a lot of conversations with people that are just conversations about the weather, so to speak, right? They're just operating just right around here. And so there's not these actions that are moving your life forward. You might go, I'm not saying you, people might go up, but then they come back down. And Rod Harrison would say, that's the deception area. So once they hit that deception, they just feel more comfortable right back down here. I think drawing it out this way, I wasn't planning on doing this at all. It's just coming to me right now. But this is the area you want to operate at. And you got to define what does that area, what does it entail? Well, if we're talking about health, we know that eating Pop-Tarts for breakfast down here and waffles and pancakes and hash browns from McDonald's, that's down here. And we could actually go pretty far down, like I'll put McDonald's down here, and like this is death, right? We could probably even move death up a little bit closer to McDonald's right there. That's not living food. So if it's not living food, then it's producing death, right? Entropy. So we got to define, what is it that's up here? What is in this threshold area? Well, when I was brought in, they said, look, two connections a day would really, move your business forward. You would do really good if you did 2 contacts a day. And a contact is they looked at the information and it's a yes or a no. So it's a yes or a no, or I need more information, or not now, right? But that's, 2 contacts a day, 2 looks, and then you followed up with them. That would probably be right in the middle here. 1 contact a day, or maybe 1 every other day, that'd be down here. 5 contacts a day, now you're talking up in this area, like you're going for the Super Bowl win. All right, so that's just one area, contacts. What about, presenting the information yourself, and you could really strive for excellence and really win it by adding more actions. So more efficient actions in your day. So what would be an efficient action? Not just texting somebody the video, but what else could you do besides sending them the information? You could be learning how to present yourself, and then you could be going and doing home presentations. That would be an action up here. So there's 2. Let's do that in red. So sending somebody to a video, doing the presentation yourself, having conversations with people, I guess as a leader, providing more information to your team, making sure that they're getting the right information and following up with that. Kind of like following up with somebody you sent the information. Are you following up with your team and getting them the information? Like I was just going over this morning, refining. Let me pull it up. No, that's not it. So I spent some of my time this morning. I added this to the executive. I added these green hearts. I added where I covered this up. I want to be more effective at teaching this. So I used to show this whole thing with all the bubbles for executive. And I thought, that's a little confusing looking at it all at once. So here I am striving for excellence in the way that I'm going to present the message on the tracks to run on to become successful, right? So this is all an internal process that's happening, right? It's my development. And so then I went through and I actually put, okay, you can make $620. I didn't have that there. I had the 170 and the 450, right? And then I made that, so that popped in. put the 1150. So this is something that I spent my time doing this morning. Why did I do that? Because I was thinking about the presentation we're going to do tonight and some of the leaders that are going to be there. And really, as a leader, they're not going to learn this by osmosis. This has to be taught. This has to be a top of the mind awareness. So then I changed 5 consultants, 100 BV on the left, 5 consultants, 100 BV on the right to Forever Pack. Let's just plant the seed. It's always the Forever Pack. There's no other option. So 100 BV, right? That's the Forever Pack. So let's just keep the message consistent. I changed that this morning. And then I put the total. I didn't even have the total on before. So again, that's operating on this level up here. These are actions that I'm taking that are going to come back and serve me. So these would be serving actions. All in here, all of these actions would serve you to start to get the results. You got to define, what are those? What are those actions? And everybody's waiting to be told what to do all the time, right? So take this little chart right here and start to define what some of those actions are. Until you get clear on the image of what the actions are right here, you can't even have thoughts around them. If you can't have thoughts around them, then you're definitely not going to be taking the actions. So this is worth its weight in gold right here, you guys, if you'll do it. You might be nodding your head and say, oh yeah, that's totally awesome. But unless you do it and start to define what are those actions, well, what are the actions and how are you going to even define those? Well, it would come down to what level of success do you want to have in isogenics, right? How much money do you want to make every week? That'll help you define. That'll start to give you an image, right? How much money? Is it $2,000 a week? That'd be a 6-figure income. What would you do with that? Start to create an image around that, because until you can create the image of that for yourself, you can't have any thoughts around it. It's the image that produces the thoughts. And so many people are letting their eyes produce the image for them. Neville Goddard says, let your physical senses become passive. Let your physical senses become passive and let your internal spirit do the work. Let it build the images. Otherwise, you'll stay stuck. You'll just recycle what's going on in your environment, because it's going to be suggesting. Your environment will suggest the thoughts for you to have by the images that are before you. You've got to let your physical senses become passive. So I would think about that. Physical senses become passive. And your internal senses, your spirit, starts to create the images. I would ponder about that. What does that mean? And then make a whole thing right here. What does that mean when it comes to my actions? Where's the threshold where I cannot go below when it comes to my physical senses and my spiritual, my spirit? Imagination is going to take part in that, right? So you're going to have your imagination. So what am I going to be doing with my imagination in this threshold right here? When you can stay in your imagination in a positive way, not in the past and not in victimization and not forecasting the future events and the actions that are going to be happening, use your imagination in the positive. What's the threshold that I'm going to hold myself accountable to here? Once you start doing that, it's going to serve you. It has to produce positive results. If you stay in this threshold, the moment you drop below the threshold, now you're in a non-serving behavior. So there's 2 different areas. Well, there's 3. We could do this with our health, we can do it with our business, and we can do it with our thinking processes. All right, so powerful stuff right there. I like what, this is something that Neville Goddard said on an audio that I've been listening to. Don't strive to be a good person. So many people get stuck in this realm, especially, let me just say, probably religious people. They get stuck in this area trying to be a good person. That's an impossible request of yourself, to strive to be a good person. What does that mean? Define a good person, right? So what happens is we start trying to avoid things based on what we think is a bad person and what we think is a good person. And we start to avoid things. We start to become fearful and afraid. because we don't want to do the wrong thing because I want to be a good person, right? Let's see, what does that say? Fearful, afraid. We beat ourselves up when we do that quote unquote bad thing that a bad person would do. It's an impossible request. There's no clear definition. What I like what he says is strive to be good at something. Strive to be good at something. That's a total different behavior, a total different perspective. It totally gives you something to do, right? It's now a measurable, proactive offense. Over here, you're more defense. I'm going to try to be a good person, which means I'm going to avoid certain things, and I'm going to hold the door open for people. I'm going to do some charitable acts, right? And they're so random, so abstract. You could do good acts all day long, but your life never changes. And then we end up being more defensive and strive, and then we become judgmental of ourselves and other people. So strive to be good at something. Now we have a measurable, proactive behavior, and we're on the offense. We could improve skills. We could develop character and personality by going for that goal. So this would be goal-oriented, right? And there's going to be actions that are around that, and they're measurable, right? If we really want to improve, if we really want to please God, this is what the parable of the talents is all about. The person that hid the talent was trying to be a good person and really maybe trying not to be a bad person, right? And the very limited definition of that individual may have of that. And then they go read some of the definitions in the dictionary, and they'll be like, wow, I didn't know it meant that, you know? So improve skills, develop character and personality by being proactive, by striving to be good at something. And then when we're not as good as we would like to be, now we have to strive. Now we have to overcome, the discouragement and that sets in. And so we're going to develop some character and some personality. Jimmy Smith said, the no's build my character, the yeses build my business. So if I'm working on my character and my business at the same time by becoming good at something, you see how you're hitting two things? You're going to develop your character because you're going to be getting no's. But while you're building that thing that you're striving to be good at, you're also going to be building your business. You're going to be building that thing. You're going to be building something. That's what the person who had the talents that made more talents, because they developed character, personality, and skills by becoming good at something, not just trying to be a good person. What does that say? Can't read my own writing. Contribution. Now you start to be a contributor because you're becoming good at something. You're an asset. You're promoting certain types of behaviors, certain types of images for people to believe in, right? I mean, really, that's what Isogenics is all about, helping people to get a better image of themselves and the world around them, because what we have to offer. So the presentations, that's why I love doing the PowerPoints. It gives people an image. Once they can get that image in their head, they can start to have thoughts around that. Now that they're having thoughts around that, they can start to have behaviors around that, the actions they're going to take, right? So what do we get good at? Well, three things. What I recognized in Isogenics is they're really committed to three things: creating the healthiest people on the planet, creating the wealthiest people on the planet, and they know that personal development is a part of that whole process. So there's the three things we could commit to become good at. So when it comes to personal development, the disciplines that I could develop when the challenges come, when the deception sets in, the attitude that I could maintain when deception sets in, and the attitude that I could have proactively as awesome things start to happen. I could become inspiring. I could seek to be inspired and then seek to inspire through my personal studies, and through that discipline. Clarity of thought. I start to arrange the thoughts of my mind in a more concise manner. Clarity of articulation. So not only am I getting clear in my mind, I'm able to convey that clarity to other people. And we're never masters, we're disasters in the beginning. As we continue to carry through with the attitude and the discipline and not give up, the stick-to-itiveness, right? As we do that, we get better at our articulation, we get better at our message, we get better at our own clarity. Clarity of objections, not objections, the objective. That should be objective. IDE. Clarity of objectives, the goals that we start setting. What am I going to start to become good at? What am I going to start to improve? What am I going to help other people to start to improve? The goals that we set. Why am I setting those goals? That's the clarity of objective. Why did I set the goal to make $2,000 a week in isogenics or $2,000 a month, whatever it might be? Clarity of that objective. It grows and expands. Overcome mental deception, right? That's where the discipline comes in. That's where the attitude comes in. Overcome opinions of others, right? I'm not going to let other people sway me. I'm not going to let ignorant, unhealthy, miserable people's opinions influence me anymore, because I'm very clear on my objectives. I have a clarity of thought. So, leadership, all of these things come into play. Generating health. What am I going to do? I'm going to teach the principles. So the negative, what are the problems? What are the solutions in our society? So if this right here is our principle line, and this is the negative side, this is the positive side. These are the negative results people are getting in their lives, and these are the positive. Well, if I learn the principles by studying what is the problems out there, why are they problems? Why is eating Pop-Tarts every morning a problem? Why is going to McDonald's, every day a problem? Watching Super Size Me. I had all my kids watch Super Size Me after I watched it, and it taught me something about McDonald's food. I watched King Corn. I watched Food Matters. I listened to CDs and audios from people who were in the know about what the problems are. Dr. Harper's, CD when I first got into isogenics was amazing. Dr. Natrajan's CD was amazing. And I learned, why are we getting the negative results down here? Oh, Nutri-Grain bars aren't really healthy for you. They have preservatives, they have dyes, they have processed sugar. Well, what does processed sugar mean? What's high fructose corn syrup? I learned that from King Corn. And so I learned why people get the unhealthy results that cause what, Dr. Plant said, all 85 to 90% of deadly and gruesome diseases are due to lifestyle choices that could have been made differently. So now I'm starting to learn, spinach doesn't have the minerals in it. I didn't even know I needed 60 minerals going into my body at every meal. So I learned the principles of why people were getting the negative results. It made sense now. It was common sense. So I don't eat Nutri-Grain bars anymore. I don't do that action. And then what did I do in replace of that? Well, back when before isogenics, I was trying to eat healthy food, living food. But then what I realized now that I'm in isogenics and got the real education, not partial education or misinformation, but the minerals weren't in there. John Anderson's called the mineral man. Minerals are in every one of our products. They're the staff of life. And when I was eating living food in isogenics, what was different about it? What set it apart? Why did I have the results eating that supplement versus eating other supplements that are out there? There's not a lot of regulation out there on supplements. They don't even have to have 10% of what they're saying is in there. It doesn't even have to be absorbed. There's an absorption. There's a law of assimilation. Well, enzymes have to do with that, right? So learning these things and getting clear on them in my own mind, becoming inspired so that I can inspire other people with my clarity of thought and articulation, that was something that I wanted to get good at because it was important to me and it was important to other people. So then I could start to show people why they could get the positive results, right? So now they're actually, once we make the decision and we make the action, we don't get to decide what the consequence is going to be. That's decided in the action through the principle or principlelessness. If we're unprincipled, we're getting a lot of negative results in our lives. And they may be marginal negative results, and you learn to live with them. Society has learned to live with marginal negative results. But I'm not okay with that. I'm not going to accept that. All right. And now that I got the answer and the solution, I'm definitely not going to accept that. And I'm going to go out there and get on my soapbox. All right. So generating wealth, same thing. I read Robert Kiyosaki's book. I read Paul Zane Pilzer. I listened to Tim Sells. I listened to Jimmy Smith teach about the compensation plan and the power of two. That was a big one for me, you know, and so I started to learn the principle and the actions that needed to be taken. So if you're learning about the principle, it gives you a whole new place to operate from. You didn't even have a choice because you didn't understand the principles. You didn't have the image of what those principles could generate for yourself. Once I started learning them, I could start to create a whole new image and concept of myself. And it's not based on my past. Most people are going to base their images based on the past and what other people say and their uneducated, substantiated opinions. And so those images rule their thoughts. But now I could create a whole new image of myself because I saw a whole new area from which to operate from. And on the mental level, that was a game changer for me. Reading The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles gave me a whole new area to operate from. So generating wealth, same thing. Now I could teach leverage. Now I could teach residual, passive, along with the health. I can combine all three of these together with isogenics. That's a very rare thing. That's why I call isogenics divine. That's very rare when you can combine all three of these together and they all feed each other and they all could be operating in this area together in harmony and in unison. You guys, I hope you realize what you have in isogenics, because you just can't do that in other industries, even in other network marketing companies. There's a semblance of it there, but not like what it is in isogenics. Isogenics could let you take it right here, you know, in all three areas. So figure out your operating area. What's your threshold when it comes to your personal development, your character, your personality, your discipline of thoughts and actions, generating health? You have some choices now to make. I put more isogenics in my body because it's living food. Why would I not do that? Why would I put dead food in my body? That would be justification, and the justification wins out because you don't really know. You don't really know the principles. So you don't see clearly the threshold that you have to operate within and why. Ignorance is the number one problem, says Bob Proctor. I agree with him. Right? Generating wealth. Why would I be doing actions that don't generate more wealth? Because I don't understand the principles well enough. I don't understand them like I understand gravity. Right? So spend more time on yourself than you do on your business. I would just say spend more quality time on yourself in this area, with these areas. Don't just try to be a good person, strive to be good at something. So why am I going to do this personal development? It's because I'm going to apply these things on a higher level, the principles of health and the principles of wealth. Add those two things to your personal development, not just how to think and why to.
Can we hear Dave?
No, I don't see him either.
No. Take it away, Alex.
No, I was just texting him. No, thanks. I'm out of
We're still here.
Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We just
Uh,
can't.
yeah,
I can hear you.
yeah, he'll be back. Can't understand why my picture is so fuzzy. Does anybody know how to clear that fuzz up in my video?
Sorry, you guys. My computer ran out of batteries, so I just jumped on my phone. So, can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
So, anybody want to share any thoughts?
I missed
I
it.
do. I think I'll share something, Dave. This is Cindy. I think that what you're saying is so huge. You know, the story of the caterpillar that walks around at the bottom of the jar and never gets out because it's just busy. And I think what you're saying is huge because we can be busy, okay, doing things, even things that we think, just making random phone calls. But until we're telling the isogenic story about what you just went through, those health principles and then the business principles or both, and then offering an opportunity or an invitation for them to invite us, we can't really expect any results or even, we don't even have our foot on the gas at all. You know, and I love what you're saying. There's a really cool story that I heard a couple weeks ago, and it's a story about a man that lost his keys. And he's looking for his keys. He lost them in his dark house, and he's super frustrated. He can't find them. He sees a lamp outside that's super bright. So he goes outside and he looks for his keys outside where the lamp is so strong. And his neighbor comes over and says, "What's up? How can I help you?" And he said, "Well, I lost my keys." And the neighbor said, "Well, where did you lose your keys?" "Well, I lost them in the house, but the house is dark, and so it's light out here, so I thought I would find them out here." You know, and I think this is just huge. What you're talking about is the activities that we're doing are really doing what's going to help us find the keys.
Yeah. Yeah, it's staying in that threshold where you're doing the actions that actually serve you. So, yeah, absolutely. Anybody else? Thanks, Cindy. It's the most important thing if you want to move your life forward. Yeah, Willie.
Dave, okay, cool. Thanks, man. So, you know, from the very beginning, listening to what you were saying, and first of all, I want to kind of tie something that I heard you say in person this Saturday morning, I think it was. The days are a blur sometimes, right, Dave? So it was Saturday morning, and you said, when I'm 80 years old, I want to be in the same physical condition that I'm in right now or better when I'm 80 years old. And I was just, and I was just looking at you, and I saw the certainty in you saying that, and I have enough, data to believe that as well. But it also made me think, because I heard something too the other day, and I think it was Neville Goddard, I think, or it could have been in A Healthy Mind and Body. But if anybody's life, if we can experience really, really bad situations, really, really bad states, then we might want to consider that we can get into really, really, really good states, and for a long time. And, my personal experience was that I was in a really, really poor state for a long time, for a while, in the dark, like Cindy talked about. And now I'm like, why would I settle? Right. And then one of the things you talked about, so the question of why would I settle is actually inside the house. It's inside myself. So there's reasons why I'm not making the effort or believe that there's more available for me in particular by serving other people. Right. And so there's things inside me that are hindering me from venturing those possibilities, because they exist and they're real and they're available. And it's just me. Right. That's needs to be worked on. Right. And then Digna and I were watching. I didn't physically watch it, but she was watching it. But I heard her say, "Oh my God, Tony Robbins is in a 7-Eleven. he's eating a Slurpee or whatever it's called. And I know the little bit that, like I've heard Tony Robbins talk about this, where his wife, Sage, was like, Tony, will you relax? Let's go eat an ice cream cone. I mean, does it have to be 24/7? We get it. You know what I mean? Like, we get it. Your chemistry is on point. You are on fire. You are maximum all out. We get it. But can we enjoy an ice cream cone? And it was like what you were saying in the beginning, could we enjoy an ice cream cone? And so she has helped him to kind of balance out exactly what you were saying. We're not going to eat ice cream every day. You know what I mean? But geez, and it's funny, on my way down to the gym, I get on the elevator, and this guy's got a box. I couldn't even look at the box that he was eating, but it was dry cereal, and he's just digging his hand in and just, and I'm like, oh my God, that's how you're gonna start your day? This is not looking too good, buddy. But if you do that long enough, consistently long enough, and then people say, oh my God, why am I in the health that I'm in? You remember those boxes of dry cereal every day? So that was the other thing. And then last but not least, at the end, if I could remember, and I think it was pretty much along the lines of, protecting our minds. I think this is the last thing I wanted to share, because, having an ice cream cone, fine. But I know that protecting our minds, our thoughts, and our imagination, and I just love hanging out with you, when we get a chance to hang out. The conversations are awesome. Sometimes we miss exits on highways. It's okay, because the conversations is just incredible. And it's just protecting our thoughts and seeking possibilities, and then ultimately believing, and then paying attention, like creating an environment that, the books, what are we reading? What are we listening to? What are the conversations that we're having? One of the things that you and I were talking about was hearing from Jim Rohn many years ago. Look, you may need to have less conversations with a larger group of, with the majority of people that you know. You might have to have less and shorter conversations with them if you want to get to a new place. And I also read the other day, and I'll close with this, that growing, self-growth, I don't, and it could have been in healthy mind and body, but me growing, or us growing, or you growing, any one of us growing, a lot of times people may resent it initially, like, who do you think you are? You're leaving me behind. Now you're better than us, or whatever. Us growing is an act of self-love for ourselves, because we can grow, and we also help the people around us. We're not leaving anybody behind. We're demonstrating a new level of life, a new playground, a higher quality, and if we don't do it, if we don't do it, then who will do it for the people around us? And then they have a choice. They have a choice. We're not carrying anybody over the finish line. We're leading by example, and it's a must. It has become an absolute must for me to guard my gate of my mind, see the possibilities. And then the job is, as much as possible, like you were talking about the other day, in one of our conversations, Dave, as much as possible, that's where the muscle is. I'm staying in this thought, and any conversation comes up, it's like, yeah. Okay. God bless you. Thank you. But I really got to go. We'll pick that up another time. Boom. And just back, whether I got to sit still and meditate and pray, or call somebody or whatever, and change, get completely out of that, and get laser focused in what I know is a reality and is possible, and that's where I want to be focused on, not in ignorance or denial or any kind of illusion that there aren't weeds around. If I see a weed, I'm going to pull it out quick, and then we're going to get focused on growing orchards, which takes a little more time than roses, but they're absolutely worth it. So thank you for the opportunity to be able to share. Thank you, Dave.
Oh yeah, well said. Thank you so much. A lot of great stuff there. It just reminds me of the quote that I have in my office: focus on the objective and you have joy, and fulfillment. Focus on the obstacles and you have discouragement and despair. How could it be otherwise? How could it be otherwise? How could you focus on obstacles and have positive things happen? physics tells you that that's impossible. It's on an abstract level where we can't really see what's happening with that law of attraction, but just articulating it. How could you focus on the obstacles and have amazing things happen? It's just impossible. And I'm glad that this information is coming out on this level. You know, that's what's causing the shift in the world, is because people are like, you know what, that really makes a lot of sense. How could I complain and focus on the obstacles and have the things that I want to have happen, right? So, and again, it's just that little shift where we start to evaluate. Am I operating? Which zone am I operating in here? Which zone, and am I clear on what that zone is and what is required of me to act in a certain way? Wallace Wattles calls it a certain and scientific way. Certain and scientific way. And I like how you said, Willie, you know, oh, I got to go, you know, and then immediately you're back to, okay, I need to call somebody. I need to get back in this zone right here because I just had a conversation where somebody was talking down here and under the threshold, right? You guys get that? Somebody's talking to you about an obstacle. It brings you down below the threshold. Look, yeah, sometimes obstacles, there's always going to be obstacles that show up. But most people react to those obstacles. They're not talking about how do we overcome that obstacle and what's the positive action and things and direction I need to take this. They like to just sit and stew about the obstacle. And so they're going to pull you down below your threshold when they talk about the obstacle. And when you have a really clear, clarifying actions that you need to take, principally based, that are going to keep you on this positive end, when you know what those are, and all of a sudden somebody's having a conversation with you that pulls you down here, you know it. And you just want to try and turn that around. And some people don't want to turn it around. They want to sit and talk about the obstacle instead of about the solution. And so as soon as you're done, you're like, bam, I got to get myself back up here. How do I do that? I need to pull my 3x5 cards out. Well, maybe I don't need to pull my 3x5 cards out because I am so memorized. I'm so familiar with the feeling. I just pull the 3x5 cards out in my mind. Right? And when you're hanging out up here and you're doing those things along with the actions that are required, you got to get people to take a look. You got to make a connection. But now the connections that are happening up here because you've been operating up here. If you're operating down here, what kind of connections are you going to be having? The people that are operating down here. How could it be otherwise? They call this somebody who's become awakened. But some people are awakened, but they're still operating down here. They just haven't quite figured that principle out yet. Right? So, wow, great stuff. I'm learning. I'm getting it deeper. I get more excited about it. Anybody else?
Can I share? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, this is great. This was so good today. And what I thought you just really brought home is, you know, with mind and body and the business, we've got, you know, we keep hearing, you know, work harder on yourself than your business. Well, that's not what I hear in that, and what you've taught here today is working on yourself is building your beliefs and your understanding and your knowledge around your mind and your body and the business. And as you learn more, you become more inspired to take inspired actions. And then those actions of working in the business and sharing and following up and doing, you know, and teaching and creating the PowerPoints, all of those become inspired actions. When you're tuned in to what it is you're wanting to create, you're learning about what your whole subject matter. But there's also a slight caution in it too, because the more we learn, as much as we want to teach, there's also a sense of keeping it simple. And I just want to kind of, like, as we watch these different documentaries and we can become really evangelistic about, like, you know, we could be like the food Nazi, you know, you can't eat that. What are you doing? You know, so it's holding the space of knowing and this new knowledge and gently guiding people to new education, to starting on their journey. But I really, really got that working harder on yourself is all of those higher actions around learning, you know, yourself and what you're wanting to create, and practicing that stillness and holding, you know, the 3x5 cards, but it's also in learning about nutrition, learning how the body works, all of those things you went through today. It was just really, really well put. And you can see how it stacks heavily on the learning and the practicing and the mastery, the self-mastery that's involved as you do awaken and as you move up that ladder. And then those effort, the actions, you don't have to take as many actions because they're more powerful. And those people are coming to you because you're in such an alignment with the education and with your practices. So I just really loved this. I hope that that this one gets posted. Fantastic stuff.
I just got chills. They're still going. They're going down through my legs. I love it. Yeah. I like what I think it's Bob Proctor says, become unreplaceable. And can you see how if you're committing to all three right here in becoming good at something, not becoming a good person? That really hit me hard when I heard him say it a lot of times, but for some reason it struck me different. I was ready to hear it. And becoming good at something. And that's what I did. I learned about the problem and the solution with health. I learned about the problem and the solution with wealth. Principally, not just, eating Pop-Tarts is not good because they're high, they're processed carbs and a lot of sugar and there's no nutrition. It went deeper than that, you guys. It was committing to that excellence. So get really good at something. And I like how you just framed it all up, so harmonize your development in getting good at something and make it those three things. Wallace Waddle says your number one priority is to get wealthy. Well, yeah, you could get wealthy by being a big game changer in people's lives and really having an impact in people's lives. So while you're getting wealthy, you're making an impact at the same time. That's why I really feel like Isogenics is such a divinely inspired company. So many principles are built into it that there's no way they could have said, well, let's build this principle into this, and let's take this principle and build it into Isogenics. So let's take this one. They have so many of them. All they did was follow the inspiration that was coming to them, that was coming from God. And they developed, through that inspiration, this so principally based company that it's a win-win-win-win. The wins just keep going for everybody, right? So that getting good at something, I just gathered as much information on a deep level so I understood it. I didn't really go out to I'm going to become a very effective teacher. What I went out after was I'm going to become a very effective learner so that I really, really get it. Simultaneously, when you really, really get it, you're going to be able to articulate that to other people. But then what you said was brilliant. You got to keep it simple, you guys. That's marketing 101. I could take everything that Bill Andrews said and give it to you the way he said it to me, but that would not be effective, and I would not have built the business that I did. I had to, it's not dumbing it down, it's actually smartening it up when it comes to marketing. And that's marketing 101. Keep it simple so that the masses can understand it and they can act on it.
Dave, I have a quick comment.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so right over in the wealth, I just want to, we know, like you just put on that video, I don't remember the woman's name, but she talked about cash flow quadrants.
Yeah.
And she also spoke at Celebration. She's blonde. Anyway, she's one of our millionaires. And it's having that, I don't want to shift what you're saying, but we're talking about wealth and we're having these conversations. A lot of times we hang out so much in the health that we're not able to become executive. And she talked a lot about having these conversations that you're talking about on that third item, which is talking and having conversations about wealth. So I know for me, I've analyzed, what am I talking 90% of the time? Probably the health. And then we know, however, that those conversations about wealth, getting their products paid for or making executive, and those are truly the way that we build our, board of directors, build the base of our business. So it's just that plug for, moving in a little bit more or actually changing the ratios to a lot more of the business conversations.
Yeah, and with marketing, you got to be really careful about that. You do have to talk about it, but you don't want to make it the main point because people aren't coming to the meeting to learn They want wealth in their life. Trust me, you guys, they want wealth more than anything else in their life because they want the choices, they want the options, and that takes wealth. But you've got to put it in there in a way that you're marketing it in a very, marketing 101, right? And that's why I put the Robert Kiyosaki, that's why I put her video in there. That's giving people the opportunity to learn those principles, the principles of generating wealth. Robert Kiyosaki and the Cash Flow Quadrant teaches them very well. And so I'm giving people the opportunity to take another look at the principles, right? And then go out and teach that in a way that's a napkin presentation. But you don't start with that. I made the mistake of starting with wealth, even with networkers that were brought to me, and I went right into the wealth creation. And you know what they said? Yeah, it's like everybody else. They didn't hear me. When people hear me is when they see what these products will do for them, right? And so it's a combination of both. You can't have one without the other. You need both, but just make sure you're wise in how you do that. And I'm absolutely agreeing with what you're saying, Cindy. I'm not negating what you're saying. What you said is spot on. You've got to understand and get those principles across to other people. And so you've got to talk about it. But if you don't understand it, then you can't talk about it on that level that's going to inspire somebody. So that would go back to, becoming good at something. Become good at inspiring people on how to generate wealth. Right? Perfect.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, you guys. So again, I'm just going to be redundant here. Figure out what are your actions to be operating above the threshold, and know what the actions are that keep you below the threshold. And then get very familiar with those. And like Willie said, guard it. In the podcast, I'd say guard your focus with your life. What I'm talking about is keep yourself in this area. Guard your focus and your actions with your life because it depends on it. If you want to have the life of your dreams, the life of your dreams depends on you guarding it. And if you don't know what you're guarding, then you'll be pulled down here and you won't even know it. And then what's going to happen? How could you get anything else other than what's in that area? All right, any last comment? Anybody just feels like they need to share one last?
I will. John Myers, real quick.
Brother John.
Good morning. Good morning. Hey, I just want to be a friendly provocateur to the community and just say that the most important thing about our self-development and what we're talking about this morning is actually the habit of getting down to doing it. And a couple of things that I found that worked, I call it slivers of time. And if you're in a car driving, there's audio tapes. If you're home reading, great. There's YouTube. There's audible.com. There's an incredible wealth of information and books that we've gone over and titles that we've listed. And I just want to encourage myself and anybody else who's ever having trouble getting that time to really look at your schedule and look at what you have available and use 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes. If you're in the house and you're vacuuming, have your headset on and be listening to something. Housework is for me, I like housework because I get the self-development out of it because I'm listening to something. If you got an Alexa at home, tell Alexa to play Leaders Eat Last or Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Find those books, those audios, whatever you can dish into and eat it up and do it as often as you can because the habit is what's so important. And I'm just encouraging, as what I call a friendly provocateur, all of us to really find those few seconds or minutes that you have and make them count because we don't have all that time to work on ourselves all the time when we want to work on our business and we want to be efficient. And there's just so many mediums out there that we can pull down on to get our hearts and our mind filled, to get our synapse, to wire and fire together the way that, productive. And I just want to encourage, that's all, just encourage, find a way to take the time. It has been so valuable, and I know that many of us have done that. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Brother John. And thank you, everybody. This was a great call today, and I just appreciate this mastermind where I get to feel like I'm leveled up and lifted up and ready for the day, ready for the week. So thank you so much. And it was Susan Miller. Thanks, Jan. Susan Miller, who did the video on that napkin presentation. All right, you guys have a great day. Thanks, everybody, for contributing.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.